Kent Refugee Action Network has helped thousands of children who arrived in England, some of whom risked their lives by crossing the Channel in boats. But despite the humanitarian nature of the charity's work, staff and volunteers say they've suffered threats and been branded traitors for daring to help. Spokesperson Bridget Chapman blames the government for helping stoke tensions towards refugees by framing them as criminals.
Boris Johnson talks a lot about illegal migrants when what he means is people who've entered the country as asylum seekers, and they're perfectly entitled to do that under international law. He knows that, and it's really irresponsible of him to be using that language.
When people do get here, it is very, very difficult then to send them away again, even though blatantly they've come here illegally.
And then you've got people like the Dover MP, Natalie Elphicke, who keeps using phrases like breaking into Britain. Again, contextualising these people as criminals, which they are not.
I'm here at the White Cliff, and this boat has arrived only moments ago. In it, 8 people, 7 fit men and 1 woman. This is unacceptable that people are breaking into Britain in this way.
I think it's really worrying that that comes from the top, and I think the word migrant itself has become loaded. For me, that's because it collocates with words like illegal immigrant, migrants, suspected migrant, all of which again put people coming into this country looking for sanctuary perfectly legally. They're entitled to do it under international law. They contextualise them as criminals.
Despite perceptions it can be hostile to immigration, Ms Chapman said Kent has a proud history of welcoming refugees.
On one single day in August of 1914, 14,000 people arrived into Folkestone in small boats, and the townspeople gathered around to provide beds, to provide food, to provide clothes, and it was a matter of pride for local people if you'd given up your bed for a refugee, because they deserved to have a proper bed after what they'd been through. We've had not quite 10,000 people come in small dinghies over 2 years, and people have called that a crisis. It's only a crisis for the people in the boats. It's not a crisis for us as a country. So I think that words like that scare people. The fact is there is a shortage of resources where I am in Kent and across the country. There's a shortage of housing. There's a shortage of decent work. There's a shortage of GPs and doctors' appointments. But none of that is to do with the people in the dinghies. You know, we're the 5th biggest economy in the world, and we can absolutely afford to look after the homeless and the veterans and the people arriving in the dinghies. People that I've worked with, I've seen them arrive as unaccompanied children and go through college and go on to set up their own businesses, go on to work in the NHS, create jobs for other people. Young people I'm privileged to work with are a huge asset to this country. They're not a threat, they're a massive, massive asset. And we are really lucky to have them.